From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And plenty to get into, Wally.
Yes.
The Lynx playing very well in the WNBA. The Twins right now would be a wild card team if the MLB playoffs began. And the purple in training camp, that's on the horizon.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I know you can't wait.
Can't wait for that. Well, I think we should start with your Twins in Major League Baseball. We are going to talk extensive women's basketball and WNBA with Pam Borton, the former Golden Gopher women's basketball coach. But let's start with the Twins. And I think the biggest concern right now, imagine this, injuries. And, you know, we were talking about kind of their fearsome foursome in that lineup when they had Correa and Royce Lewis and Jose Miranda and Buxton Miranda being the latest addition to that list because of that 12 hit in a row at bat thing that he tied the major league record with. But here we go again, injuries. Correa sits out the All-Star game as a result. Plantar fasciitis in his other foot. You remember last year, that's what hobbled him most of the season. And he's played really well this year. I mean, he was clearly an all-star, playing at an all-star level, and you could tell, particularly his offensive numbers, way up this year as he has played healthy most of the year. But he sits out the All-Star game, sat out the last game or two of the Twins regular season. Let's see how this is going to go going forward, because let's not forget, he's not 22 years old anymore.
And the irony is, if you remember, a couple of years ago, San Francisco had him and then balked because of injury concerns with, I believe, an ankle. And then a week later, the New York Mets thought Carlos Correa was their guy, and they had the same concerns. This isn't that same injury.
No.
This is plantar fasciitis. He dealt with it last year, as you said, on the other foot. Very painful. It's slow healing. Carlos gutted it out. He was a grinder a year ago, I really thought. He got into October, those playoff games against the Blue Jays and the Astros.
He was terrific.
He was fabulous, in the field. He came up with some clutch hits. This year, we're seeing the offense that we thought we would see when he's 100% healthy, and now all of a sudden, more plantar fasciitis. It's unfortunate because, as you said, the Twins have this quartet of talent, but they can't keep them in the lineup every day. Even when they're healthy, they don't play together all the time because Rocco gives them a lot of days off. So this is a red flag, Carlos Correa. Now, hopefully, if you're a Twins fan, he gets back in the lineup soon. But with plantar fasciitis, if he comes back, will he ever be 100%? He wasn't a year ago. Now, Byron Buxton, he's missed a few games, but I think by his standards, he's looking pretty good.
Oh yeah, this is hullabaloo time. I mean,
Willie Castro is their Iron Man. I'm going to call him Cal Castro. He's played in every Twins game.
All 96 of them, baby. So Royce Lewis, the fourth guy on that list, he's only played in 24 of the 96 games through the All-Star break. That's a quarter. Oh, by the way, that's one out of every
with 10
4
home
games.
runs.
Great numbers.
Yeah, explosive bat, great energy. Here's the thing with Royce Lewis, and we've said it for years about Byron Buxton. The key is, can he stay on the field? And I'm not picking on him. I love the guy. I love watching him play. Same with Byron Buxton. But if you're not playing, then you don't do your team any good. Durability is the most important ability. Bud Grant said that many years ago. That's why those old Viking teams won a lot of games. The same quartet or core showed up and played every week. I mean, they could count on that group way back in time. So these Twins, they're kind of a bubble wrap team. They have a lot of injuries.
Yeah, they do.
And it's yearly.
Yep. Well, what did Chuck Foreman say? You can't help the club if you're in the tub.
No, you can't.
and so Correa now, Royce Lewis for most of this season, obviously 3/4 of their games he has missed so far. Jose Miranda of late, and Byron Buxton, for the most part, it's been pretty good, but don't hold your breath on that. I mean, depends on which way the wind is blowing. Byron could be down again.
This may be the most important second half of Byron Buxton's career.
I would agree.
If he can keep playing, I believe he's on a pace to play roughly 120 to 125 games. The Twins would take that. I think Buxton would be happy with that. Fans would be happy with it. So now we're getting into the second half. If Buxton can stay on the field, maybe he finally gets over that hump of a guy you can't count on. As far as Correa, I don't know. I can't speculate on that injury, and Lewis and Miranda, hopefully they're back soon. But the Royce thing is tough. Royce is like, it's almost a tease.
Yeah, big time.
You start falling in love with the guy, and then he's out of the lineup. And maybe when he hits a ball in the gap, he shouldn't even try to make it a double. Both the injuries came on doubles, right?
Yeah, they did, actually. And then there's Brooks Lee, the rookie sensation who's made a splash, much like Royce Lewis did last year. Brooks Lee has been great with the exception of that throw that he airmailed into the dugout that ended the game against the Giants this past Sunday. But, I mean, otherwise – their former number one choice is looking awfully good right now, and start wondering, wow, what are we going to do with him? Well, with Correa down with plantar fasciitis, Brooks Lee might see more time at shortstop than they originally thought.
And that top pick out of Kansas State, the shortstop named Culpepper, I mean, if this continues, they may fast track him to the majors here in a couple of years. So, yeah, you can't have too much depth. You never know what's going to happen. Brooks Lee's been impressive. Don't throw that ball against the Giants on Sunday because that led to a walk-off win via an error.
Lesson learned.
Exactly. Because he made brilliant plays the night before.
He did, for sure. All right, we are going to talk some WNBA coming up next.
Yeah, Pam Borton is at the scorer's table ready to check in. We are 10K Takes, your Twinkies ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Absolutely.
This is green light situation.
Lee Hodges.
TPC Twin Cities, you never know what you're gonna get.
Get away to Lakeville, Minnesota, where your family will have tons of outdoor fun. Come for the nature and stay for the thrills. Bring the bikes, swimsuits, fishing poles, and walking shoes as Lakeville boasts trails, lakes, and beaches. Plan your itinerary at visitlakeville.org today.
Welcome back. 10,000 takes rolling along. I'm going to talk some hoops now. Women's basketball front and center in the middle of the summer, as it has been for the last several years. But I don't think it any more pronounced than it is this year, Eric, especially with Caitlin Clark coming on board in the WNBA. And joining us now to talk some women's hoops is Pam Borton, former University of Minnesota head women's basketball coach. Of course, led the Gophers to the Final Four back in 2004, that famous Lindsay Whalen squad. Pam, first of all, thanks for joining us. Secondly, as you look at the landscape now, particularly of the WNBA, but of women's basketball in general, are you surprised to see the success and how fast things have changed over the last couple of years, even the last year, you could say?
I'm not. I mean, there's always been good players in the league. You have Dinah Truss, you have Lindsay Whalen, you have Sylvia Fowles, I could go on and on and on, and they're just phenomenal players. But I think it took the Caitlin Clark effect for people to actually tune in and really kind of see, how great the overall game is, and the coaching and the competitiveness and these phenomenal women in the league. So it just took the hook. And, now that people have the hook, people have become more interested in the game, including myself, believe it or not.
Yeah, and Pam, certainly the WNBA garnering a lot of headlines this year. Caitlin Clark being first and foremost, and then right behind her, the Bayou Barbie, Angel Reese. Now, the Minnesota Lynx could have drafted Angel Reese. Right now, she leads the WNBA in rebounding. She's a double-double machine. But they opted to go with Alyssa Pilley. They moved down, and Chicago Sky get Angel Reese. You know Cheryl Reeve. Do you have any inclination as to why the Lynx didn't grab Reese? Was it her personality? Or, I mean, she played for Kim Mulkey, for goodness sakes, at LSU. What do you think was the reason?
Well, I think you also have to look at how their teams are doing. I mean, the Lynx are what, fourth or fifth in the league, or they're holding steady at fourth in the league. They've been very successful. You know, Coach Reeve has the ingredients. She knows what success looks like. She's built a culture. You know, what does that culture look like? Here's the types of people we bring into the culture with the values, with the work ethic, with the this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, the sky is still below 500. And, you know, she's having a great rookie season, double machine, but they're not winning games at this point. And, you know, maybe once they get more players in the next couple of years, maybe they will be. But, you know, there's a reason to Coach Reeves' madness or how she brings in players. I mean, you can't question that. I mean, she's got the experience, she's got the track record, she's got the, you know, the success and so forth. But I'm sure there was a certain thing that she was looking for her team this year.
Do you think that figured into her decision? And I don't know how much she had to do with Caitlin Clark not being selected for the Olympic team, but do you think that kind of was part of that too? That, hey, you know what, I know exactly what we need to win, and maybe, you know, she passed it along to the committee that makes that final decision. How do you think that played out?
Well, you know, I think there's a committee for a reason. You know, I'm sure experience played a part in that. They're not about, you know, when you get to the Olympic level, it's all about winning, and they've won so many years. Their record is unbelievable, and you know, I think you take out when it gets to that level, and I don't think there's been a situation like a Caitlin Clark in decades. And, you know, if they went back to do this again in the next 5 or 6 years or 4 years, maybe they would do it differently, because there hasn't been a player like Caitlin Clark that has come to the table with this type of interest and potential and so forth. You know, I'm sure if they had to do it back, you know, had to do it over again, they probably would make the same decision, but I'm sure they might have thought about it a little bit harder. But, you know, 4 years from now, there's no doubt that Caitlin Clark will probably be on the roster.
Yeah.
Pam, when do we see a female head coach in the NBA? I mean, you've got somebody like Becky Hammon. Cheryl Reeves certainly has the credentials. Dawn Staley at South Carolina. There's others. But do you think that day is coming?
Well, I would challenge, like, why would they want to? You know, when the WNBA, I mean, the Lynx had over 18,000 people at their game the other night. And, you know, the women's sports with women's hockey in Minnesota, with soccer, with women's basketball, and so many different sports coming to the forefront. Now it's like, why would you want to? I mean, people are tuning into the women's game. There is becoming more resources. You know, eventually here in the WNBA, there's private flights now. There's more attendance. You know, that's going to equal dollars in the future. But I would say, you know, at this point, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you know, that's something that they should want to do. But today and moving forward, why is that something that they want to do? You know, when women's sports is more of a pure game, and the salaries are hopefully coming up to par in the near future. But I think that's the way you look at it.
Well, I think you already took the answer to my next question, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. Maybe you can expound on it. You talked about the pure game. And I wonder when you say, and when we look at the fact that attendance is way up in women's basketball, and obviously, as you said, it's the Caitlin Clark factor that has brought the droves to it. But do you think that keep them interested, to keep the fans interested, it is the purity of the game as opposed to what you may or may not see in the NBA?
I think that's part of it now. I mean, I think it's that extra pass. It's that extra pass instead of that, you know, let me just break it down off this ball screen and take a 1-on-3. like the NBA, or it's dunking. It's the pure game is let me make that extra pass. Let me make that great pass. Somebody's cutting back door. Like you can see a lot in Caitlin Clark today. I mean, she's scoring, but she's also making her entire team better. You know, the other thing around that is, and I lost my train of thought there a little bit, but you see that the NHL, they just hired their first female on the bench. I can't remember what team that was, but it's becoming even more popular on the men's side as well. But you're getting back to the pure game. But I also think there's a little bit of, I'm air quoting now, a little bit of drama in the women's game between Caitlin and Angel. And I think just our entire world, no matter if you're in sports, you're in business, you're in politics, you're in whatever you're looking at, is people like a little bit of drama, that people like the negativity. People want to, tune into that and see the air quotes, the cat fights or the disagreements on the court. And people like that, in anything that's going on. And I think that's also added a little bit of, it's also added some viewers to the whole mix as well.
Yeah. I think Angel and Caitlin are this millennium's version of Magic and Larry Bird. We'll see how it plays out. There's a lot of basketball left for both of them. You're now working with businesses, Pam, and trying to motivate them on how they can do better. What's the common link between dealing with a CFO, a CEO, somebody high up on the food chain in the business world, and then trying to motivate athletes? I know business and sports, they're two different things, but is there any common thread?
There's a lot of common threads, and that's why my transition has been so seamless. It is, how do you take really good performers, high performers to the elite level? And I work with leaders. I'm a high performance coach. How to be better leaders, how to build high performing teams, how to build healthy cultures. That's what I did as a coach, is build culture, high performing teams, take, athletes, high performing athletes into elite athletes. That's what I do just in the business world. So I do exactly what I did in the sports world, but just without a basketball.
All right. Last bit for you. Team USA should not lose a game at the Olympics, correct? I'm talking about the women, of course. Well, and the men too, for that matter.
Well, that is very true. And if they do, and I'm knocking on wood right now, I don't think we'll hear the end of it because Caitlin's not on the team. So, I think that's the expectation that we have every year or every Olympics. But I have no doubt in my mind that Cheryl's going to do a great job. The team's going to do a great job, and they're going to represent our country, just like they always have.
Yeah. Well, Pam, we appreciate you spending some time with us, some great insight on women's basketball and the WNBA and business as well. And I'm sure we'll tap into you again down the road.
Great. Thanks, Wally. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. She is Pam Borton, the former University of Minnesota head women's basketball coach, right here on 10,000 Takes. Eric and I are back with more after this timeout. Stay with us.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Absolutely.
This is green light situation.
Lee Hodges.
CPC Twin Cities, you never know what you're going to get.
Well, I know you don't like talking hoops in the summer, and I don't much like talking football, but I think we have to talk some Vikings here because they've got another trip fail here again. Jordan Addison, you'd think he would have learned his lesson, right? A year ago, going about 150 miles an hour down I-94 between Minneapolis and St. Paul. You know, did all the apologies, did all that. Now he's out in your land out there in L.A., and he's going to get nailed probably with a DWI type situation and found, asleep in the middle of an intersection?
On an interstate near LAX.
Oh.
So blocking traffic. So very
that's serious
dangerous
stuff.
situation
Yeah.
for anybody involved. And he is asleep at the wheel, his Rolls Royce. First and foremost, I'm glad nobody got injured in this thing.
Right, for sure.
And then second, I think Jordan needs to look in the mirror and flip the script quickly. The Minnesota Vikings have invested in the young man. They're counting on him to be part of their arsenal of receivers. He's very good. There's no debating that.
No question.
And they need him. They need him to take some of the heat off a J-Jets who's going to get double and triple teamed. So this is where the Vikings need that strong culture as an organization. You know, take care of him, tough love, whatever it takes. I don't know the details. I don't know if he has an alcohol problem or not, or he's just making foolish decisions. But fix it. And he's a young man. It can be fixed. Fortunately, there's been no real collateral damage for him. So, but if he doesn't learn from this, I don't know when you learn.
And these are the two times he's been caught.
True.
Yeah. So I would guess where there's smoke, there's fire.
And remember the offensive coordinator, Wes Phillips, had a DWI last season.
Yeah. So. Boy, oh boy. So I think that this, you talk about culture, but I think that it lends even more towards, young athletes with a lot of dough in their pockets. He said he was driving a Rolls Royce and he's going 150 miles an hour and now he's, drunk, asleep at the wheel, whatever it was. What about the money that's going to go be shoveled now to these college athletes that are basically the same age? They're all, 19, 20, 21, sometimes even 18, depending on who they are. I mean, this could be a problem that you see on a recurring basis now, more and more than ever before.
Well, you have to have a strong support system. You have to have guidance within your support system, right? You have to have somebody that will give you some guardrails, because if you're young and you have a lot of money, it's easy to do foolish things. Hey, old people do stupid things with a lot of money. But how do you handle a ton of money when you're anywhere between 19 and 30, say? So the key is, find people you can trust, and not people who are just going to be yes people and tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
They're going to get in your face. That's what Jordan Addison needs. He needs somebody to look him in the eye and say, listen, if this continues, you won't be in the National Football League much longer. And believe me, there's guys who want your job. So I think for the college athletes and NIL, remember, there is a thing called Uber. There is a thing called Lyft. I don't know if there's cab drivers anymore, but you can get a ride.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the wherewithal and the financial means to do it.
Yeah. And there's no reason not to it. There really isn't.
This really should be a simple decision.
Well, he's supposed to be a world-class athlete. Should he even be drinking at all?
Good point.
Yeah. All right. Stay tuned. More to come here on 10,000 Takes of the Day right after this timeout.
Absolutely.
This is green light situation.
Lee Hodges.
CPC Twin Cities, you never know what you're going to get.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Let your adventure begin in Lakeville, Minnesota. We have over 90 places to grab a bite to eat, and we're close to the Mall of America, Valley Fair, and the Minnesota Zoo, plus hotel packages and great rates. Visit Lakeville. We're serious about fun all year round.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. I'd like to thank the viewers in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and those overdeveloped suburbs who are watching us on a weekly basis.
Overdeveloped.
Yeah, a lot of sprawl up here. Okay, takes of the day. Are you giddy guardian, grumpy guardian, cranky cavalier, or maybe you're an angry American? What is it this week?
Well, funny you should say angry American. I'm proud to be an American and proud to say we don't want some of that nonsense that goes on in other countries during soccer matches. But yet, we had it here during the Copa America tournament down in Miami, the championship match between Colombia and Argentina. And I'll get to the match itself in a moment. It was the pregame brawl outside of the stadium that folks are talking about. And oh, by the way, yes, there was a game. So this is at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium. The championship match suffered a 1-hour delay before the game because of a ruckus at the gates. Dozens of people storming the gate trying to get in. 27 people arrested. 55 people ejected. And on top of it all, yes, the head of the Football Federation of Colombia, he and his adult son arrested for getting into a fight with a security guard and a woman who tried to break up the fight. What in the world? Please. We don't need your soccer inside the stadium, fights in the crowd. We don't need that here in the U.S. We have problems of our own. We have enough of those. We don't want it. We don't need it. Keep it in your own countries. Please don't bring it to our shores. We have enough issues. And oh, by the way, yes, Argentina won the match by a score of 1-0.
Good to know.
Yeah. So.
Let's check the mood meter out. Ah, yeah, angry American.
I am.
Yeah, he's all about the red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my take of the day, let's give a shout-out to Bobby Bryant.
Okay.
He will become the first cornerback ever inducted into the Minnesota Vikings Ring of Honor on September 22nd. And Bobby Bryant is one of those guys who did a lot of things for the Vikings back in their heyday, the Purple People Eaters. He was on the back end. He had 57 picks in 14 seasons, 6 in the playoffs. And in my opinion, Bobby Bryant was part of the greatest single play in the history of the Purple. No, he wasn't there for the Minneapolis Miracle. No, he wasn't the guy who caught that pass from Tommy Kramer. That was Ahmad Rashad.
Correct.
Miracle at the Met that you were at. I was at the game, though, on December 26, 1976, young kid visiting from Orange County, LA Rams at Minnesota Vikings, NFC Championship game, 14 degrees outside. The Rams carve the Vikings up like a pumpkin on the opening drive. They get down to a centimeter from the goal line. They should have gone for it. But instead, Chuck Knox says, no, we're going to take the 3. In comes Tom Dempsey. Tom Dempsey, chip shot, right? Well, Nate Allen blocks it. Ball caroms to Bobby Bryant, and on a scoop and score, he goes 90 yards into the end zone, all the way to the house. The Mets shook. I felt like the game was in L.A. It was an earthquake. And I guarantee you, without that play, I don't think the Vikings win the game. And oh, by the way, that's the last NFC championship they won, and that catapulted them into the Super Bowl, the last Super Bowl they've played in. So for me, that is the greatest single play in the history of the Minnesota Vikings because it came with very high stakes, the NFC championship.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, although too bad they couldn't take it to the house in the Super Bowl.
No, 2 weeks later, they became a speed bump for the Oakland Raiders, and we don't have enough time to get into that thing.
Yes, one of 6 straight speed bumps in the NFC Championship, by the way, though.
All right, let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to David Weld, Paul Langfellow, Pam Borton, and, of course, Rocky. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.